Hi, my name is Andrea and I am going to take you through a day of what homeschool looks like.
Are you okay?
We use a loop schedule and I will talk about that also, but I did want to just show you what a day looks like typically, and then I wanted to show you the books that we're using. All right, the first thing we do in the morning is our Bible study. Every single morning we do our devotional. This is called Indescribable, and I love this. It's got beautiful illustrations. Here's me in the morning trying to do the Bible study, and then the baby starts to distract me. So I try to distract her by telling her to go do numbers with her brother who helps me. He loves teaching her numbers and letters, and he's sitting over at the fridge. So when I'm distracted by her, you can see here, I try to get her to go over with her brother so I can finish.
Joanna, 100.
We got a bridge.
And every single day it has a verse, a little devotional about what that verse means, and it's applied to kids about this age group. It ends with a prayer, and it always has a fun fact. Sometimes if it's about a tornado, because this is, a book about science, volcanoes and stuff like that, we'll look it up on my phone. And I'll put my YouTube app, hook it to the TV. I highly recommend paying for YouTube because the ads are horrifying, and it took me 10 years, or when did they start offering payment instead of ads? I can't remember, but I wish I would have done it a long time ago. But for some reason, I will pay all the other streaming services, but I just was like, I'll just watch the ads on YouTube. No, especially on kids' educational content and just kids' music, songs, and things, the ads are disgusting and horrifying. And I highly recommend just paying for YouTube. It is a huge resource. Some people are anti-screen time totally. I am kind of. I just monitor closely as far as stimulation goes, and I don't let them like mindlessly sit there and watch. There's a Facebook group actually that if I am looking for something, there are proof shows that I let them just watch, especially when we're sick. And I talked about that in my other video. There's a Facebook group that I'll put here. And you type the title of any show and it will tell you this isn't to screen for shows that are too stimulating. That's a different list I use, but the list I use is a secular list, so I bounce it through this Facebook group list to make sure that it doesn't have a progressive or a leftist leaning agenda. So I pay for YouTube. I talk so much. I am so sorry, but I just feel like I have so much information I'd like to get out there. I pay for YouTube so that we don't have to see the ads. And I will look up things when we're doing Bible study, and they're like, sometimes we can find videos of, so this day there was tornadoes. So I looked up YouTube videos about tornadoes and I let them see what that was all like after we finished the Bible study. Then they had questions about the scientific aspect, or maybe they'll have questions about the biblical aspect, and we will dive deeper into it just based off of this. And he's got a few. This is the man. I'll put the name of this in the description. So that's what we do for Bible study. Every single morning we read from this. However, we don't just do Bible study in the morning, because in our house, we love the Lord. Can I get an amen? And we do all kinds of Bible study throughout the day. Oftentimes actually, when the baby goes to sleep, I will bring out a fun activity like sand, kinetic sand, so messy. Clay, modeling clay, because Play-doh is like I would rather have sand than Play-doh. Play-doh irritates me, but there's a modeling clay that is less messy, if you know what I'm talking about. I'll put a picture of it here. And they will keep their hands busy at the table while I work on memorizing scripture, and they essentially will memorize it with me because I'm saying it out loud, repeating it over and over again, and I'm writing it down. I'm working on memorizing the entire first chapter of James right now. Of your faith produces complete.
It makes disappear stuff? Watch. It disappears.
Lacking.
Do I have one?
What? That you may be. That you may be. Perfect and complete. Lacking in nothing. So that's another way we do a Bible study, which usually occurs when the baby is napping. And then another great resource is probably my favorite is the Truth and Grace books. This is book number 1. In this book, they have catechisms. I always say that wrong, but it has, how many numbers are there? There's 80, 100. Each one of these books has catechisms. Here I am homeschooling, right? I don't even know how to say that word. 135 of them. And it basically has a question and then the answer. And then the next question is part from the previous answer. So it creates a chain for the child to easily memorize it. My kids, even my 3-year-old, memorized this very easily. So who made you? God made me. What else did God make? God made all things. And then after you've memorized your catechisms with your kids, very easy to do, you'd be surprised. It has, then after the catechisms, they have scripture memory, and they even in the very back break down how old you ought to be to memorize each thing. Age 7, age 8, age 5, age 6, ages 2 and 3. And it has the verses that would be appropriate to memorize for an age 2 and 3-year-old. They're easier, obviously, but my 3-year-old memorizes the big ones just fine. It just depends on your kid. But it has a bunch of verses, hymns. So it has all the books of the Bible, the Old and the New Testament, hymns of the 12 apostles, which is, this is the Bible basics. I'm going backwards. I don't know why I'm doing that. The 10 Commandments. We have the 10 Commandments hanging up in our living room, and the kids like to read it. But these are Truth and Grace books, and I highly recommend them because they've really helped my kids learn about the Bible. In addition to, and this is mostly for my 6-year-old, my 1-year-old, 3-year-old, and 5-year-old are kind of like, they're not quite as interested, and they aren't of teaching age per the way that I do homeschool. Anyway, I don't start until age 6, but we have the Student Bible Atlas, the Compact World Atlas, an atlas of the Bible, and Paterson Smyth has a lot of these. This is Joshua and the Judges. This is what we started with at the beginning of this school year. This one I haven't pulled from so much because I do think it is a bit more in depth. I would maybe start this age 8. I'm probably going to actually reintroduce this age 8 because I do heavily prefer the daily devotional and the Truth and Grace books. Bible study is pretty much non-negotiable, and we don't do it if like something terrible is going on, like a really big tantrum. We have one that tantrums pretty heavily and disrupts things. And then I think it was last week we didn't do it yet in the morning. I did it later in the day though. Sometimes sometimes when I notice they're all just kind of sitting around in the living room, I'll just pick up the book and I'll just do the devotional out of nowhere, and I have their attention, and I'll just do it. So as much as I'd like to have a routine, a structured routine, oftentimes I'm just like, I just go when there's a window. And I know that a lot of people are more structured than I am, and I wish that I was. It'd probably be more organized, but I've got a lot of people to take care of, and it's hard, honestly. So I just grab windows when I can, and we do a Bible study every single day. And oftentimes, I'm not even kidding, that is all we'll do. It's terrible. I'm editing this video and I see an opportunity for me to talk about grouping the kids. And when they're all in school, there are certain groups of the subjects that we will group them together. So I'm not teaching each of them individually. Oh, we're spilling. We have a spill. Every day we do the Bible study. Then the next thing we do when teaching a child to read in 100 Easy Lessons. We do this every single day. My 3-year-old started doing it just because she's interested in it, and I'm not going to tell her no. Even though I don't start formal lessons until age 6, if she expresses interest in something, then we do it.
Sit.
Good job.
Sit.
This next word here.
Ew. Ew.
Ear.
Sit ew.
Sit ear. Yeah. These are just random words. This isn't a story.
Sit ew.
Sit ear.
Don't get water, Seed. Seed.
Good.
Sit
Uh-oh,
ew.
food.
Seed. Sit ew. Seed. Sit ew. Seed.
What's the next word, honey?
Mad.
Good reading, baby. We still have about 20 lessons to go, and we started in the fall, if that gives you any idea as to how often we do this. We are on like lesson 80 something, and we're still not done. And this, I think if I had started and done it every single day, he would have been done in December. But I mean, I'm just being honest. So that's what we do for reading. And I really love that book, but I can't speak about whether or not your child would do well with that if they didn't know their phonetics. And my children already knew the phonetics. If you don't know what phonetics are, it's a, b, k, d, f, g, h, I, j, k, l, m, n. Do the 3 R's. We strive to do the 3 R's every day. Well, Bible is a non-negotiable, but the 3 R's are reading, writing, and arithmetic. Our reading will be our other subjects like science or history, or just a fun book like the Betsy Tacy series is so good. If you've got an advanced reader, they could probably even read this themselves. We've got a lot of different, we do read favorite poems, old and new. I've got 2 of these, so if you are interested, I can send somebody the second one if they guess a number between 1 and 100. Let's just do that. Let's just do a random giveaway in the middle of the video. I have a lucky number that's been my number since high school, so if you guess it or around it, you can't go over. It's between 1 and 100. And if you guess the number, I'll send you the second copy of the favorite poems, old and new. Poetry is very important, but that's a whole other video. But we do poetry, so reading consists of any of the things, any of the subjects, like history, we're doing a first book in American history, and we have supplements to this. If you don't know what supplements mean, that means I have a history book that I'm reading, but to supplement that, to make it more rich, to make it more interesting, we have additional books and activities that we do. Like the very first story in this, if I remember correctly, is Columbus. So I have this book, I don't know how to say his name, but he's got several. He's got Pocahontas, he's got Leif the Lucky, but these are really fun, beautifully illustrated books that really, my son loves them so much. And we read stuff like this in addition to, this isn't dry by any means, but there aren't really pictures, if you know what I mean. So, and my son will narrate. If you don't know what narrating is, I covered a little bit about narrating in How to Make Your Kids Smart. That's another video I made. And I plan on doing a video about narrating and how important it is. But in short, go get the book Know and Tell. It's available on Kindle. Know and Tell. Okay, that's the book you need to read to learn about narrating. Otherwise, you can just stay tuned and I'll make a video about it. But my son will narrate from this book. This is our history. And we'll read this fun stuff. And then we do poetry tea time in the afternoon, but we don't like tea, so it's mostly just a snack, and it's just kind of like to gather ourselves together because, okay, wow, I have severe ADHD. I'm not, if you can't tell. It's a recent realization. I don't know how this has been lost on me my entire life, but it's severe. And I'm not the most organized person. My brain. Let me try to focus. In the morning, oftentimes people will call it a morning basket, and they have the things they do consistently every single morning because for whatever reason, when you've got children this small, it is easier in the morning. They just woke up, the day hasn't quite started. You can kind of sit down with your coffee. For us, I drink my coffee and they'll have their chocolate milk, and we'll do our Bible study, and everybody's with me in the living room. They're not trying to leave places. It's not the afternoon. They don't hear the kids next door outside playing. They're not inclined to go outside in the winter because it's 2 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And so the morning time is when I get my bulk done, my 3 R's: Bible, reading, writing, arithmetic. So I guess those 4 things. And that's oftentimes called a morning basket. People will try to sell you morning basket activities, which can be fun, but I don't see that it's necessary to spend that kind of money. But our day looks like morning basket, and that's usually done mostly in the living room. We're all just sitting around. I know I've got this entire room, but this is more like a storage room. People ask for a tour of it, and I'll give you a tour of it, but it's mostly just where I keep the stuff. We'll do arts and crafts in here, and we've been doing math in here lately just so I don't have to lug around the manipulatives. If you don't know what manipulatives are, those are just the items that you use in math to give visual demonstration. So I don't have to haul that around. We'll come up in the middle of our morning time routine and do math in here. Here's a very realistic look at what math was this morning. I had to leave and go wipe a butt, and I had to get after the 1-year-old for throwing the manipulatives, and this is just what it looks like in real life.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Then you'll see the 6-year-old get silly, which I allow because he's 6. Math should be fun.
Count and write. Say the number. Okay, so you know how I get Please don't interrupt me. You don't throw the clock. Absolutely not. Please don't do that. I asked one time. I don't want to. You don't throw the clock. All right. So the same thing how it has numbers here. So it wants you to put the correct number here. So what number goes here? No. What number goes here? Exactly. So go ahead. Oh, you only have to monster.
And if I feel like I've got their attention for a little while longer, I will even throw in a story, but an interesting story, not something that he has to narrate. There are free reads like this, or like the, let me just show you the math we're using really quick. This is gonna be a long video. We use Math UC. This is one of the better curriculums. Right Start is pretty good, but it was too teacher intensive. And initially when I started this, I was just like, I could do that, but I can't. I cannot do it, not with this many kids. So I'm doing Math UC, and it comes with a DVD, and you can sit down and watch this with your child. Watch the lesson. The lesson's like literally 3 minutes long, and then your child can do it independently, or you can hover around them. It depends on the reading level. But we have a portable DVD player that my kids think is so cool, and we will do a lesson. I don't always use the lesson, especially right now because it's elementary math. It's very easy. I don't think I necessarily need to be taught how to teach this because it's just so simple. So I don't often pull this out, but I do sometimes because he's really funny, this guy in here, and he's entertaining, and the kids love him, so we do watch it sometimes. But that's what we do for our math. And if things are going left and the baby's going crazy and somebody needs something, I don't do the math right away. And sometimes if we're at a part of the day where they're just kind of starting to hover around me and kind of, they seem sort of calm and with no direction, I'm like, I'm gonna do math right now. Just 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm just like, let me just pull out the math book and we'll do this right now. I'll just throw it in. And that's what I mean by I'm not very structured, but I look for windows. Like if I've got 2 kids, we've got a master bedroom and then the main bathroom upstairs. So one kid will be in here in a bath, another kid will be here in the bath playing, and then baby will be napping or something, and then I'll be like, let's do the hard stuff that I need you to concentrate for without all the distractions. One's taking a bath here, one's taking a bath there, the other one's sleeping, and I've got just those one to myself. I'm just like, let's do math lesson really quick because there's gonna be no interruptions and it's gonna be easy for him to concentrate. So we will do math typically in the morning, but if it's not a good morning, which oftentimes it is not a good morning, like half the time it's a good morning and half the time it is not, then I will just let them go outside and play. But my aim is to do math in our morning basket. So reading will be any of the subjects or a free read. The fun books that I can't find, we're reading one about a donkey right now that he loves. So we do Bible, then we do reading, which will be free reads, like fun reads for him that he doesn't have to narrate, or the bulky stuff he does have to narrate. Free read with this, or typically I will read a fun book if math came first because he's used a lot of his brain power for math. So I will do a free read that isn't so hard for him to concentrate on and he doesn't have to narrate back because he just used a lot of his brain power, and I will do a fun read. But if math seemed really easy, or if we didn't get to math because who knows, then we will do a more concentrated reading that he has to narrate back. Also, for the science, we do living books, and I will talk about what makes up a living book in another video. But basically, in short, it's a book that's not filled with dry facts. It's written in a story form so that it's easier for the child to pay attention, and I will make a whole other video about living books. But the books we really like for science are Let's Read and Find Out. There's stage 1, stage 2. We got my stage 1s here. Sounds are all around. And there's loads of these. And if you've got a child with a special interest, like my child's special interest is underwater. So I will find a lot of under the sea type books, and we will read these for science. As morning sunbeams stream down through the clear blue-green water, a coral reef built of limestone from tiny sea animals becomes a magical place. You see how fun that is for the child to read? It's a story, but they just learned that the coral reef is made of limestone. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the thing about living books. It's not like 20 feet under the sea, the depth, the temperature, limestone. Facts. It's so dry when things are written that way. Like, what kid is going to memorize all of that information? Whereas when they read this story, the parts that stood out to them are going to be embedded, are going to be filling their mind and giving them beautiful ideas in this wonderful story. So I love these books. I've got loads of them. And anytime I see them for sale, I pick them up, whether it be I hunt homeschool groups on Facebook or thrift books, ABE books, even here locally. If the library is selling things or there's yard sales, I will look for living books for my kids. And I've got loads of books for that. So that's how we do our science. But in addition to science, if you didn't know, science starts in nature. Obviously, it seems obvious, but when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, it does. But a lot of people think of us inside with our labs and all this. But truly, all science came from outdoors, and that's why we do nature study, which is so important. A huge aspect of homeschool that is so beneficial is the ability to go outside and explore, and it can be tricky. We haven't been as outside as I like because of the amount of times we've been sick and because of the ages of the other ones. They're so young, but we have a compass. And one fun thing to do to teach your child how to navigate with a compass is you can write. Gosh, I wish that we had a property out in the middle of nowhere, but I couldn't convince my husband, who's from the Bronx, New York City, to go out into the middle of nowhere. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, but my husband was just like, he thinks this is the middle of nowhere, and I feel like I live in a city. It's very different. Culturally, we are quite different. Anyhow, that's neither here nor there. I wish I had a creek out. I wish I had a creek out back, but I do not. So with a compass, you can write down a map. You can say, take 6 steps north, take 20 steps west, take 4 steps south. You write this little map, and then they can find something in their yard, and it just helps them to navigate. Or you can go out into a park and do the same thing, but I don't really think that you can like bury something in a park. That might be illegal. But nature study is so important, and to get outside and to identify plants, flowers, and trees that are in your local area. I have an app called Picture This, and I also have an app for birds, and it's the same makers of Picture This. I'll put a screenshot of what the apps look like here. And we use those apps, so throughout the entire year, about one bird, one flower or tree, and then one, like, if you live somewhere in the super wilderness, you could do animals, but we really don't have that many animals here because I'm in the suburbs. We hardly even have squirrels because we're in the desert. You can use those apps, and you can just walk around, even if you are in the suburbs, and you can take a picture of the neighbor's tree, and then you can say, that's a black cherry tree. And then your kids will be like, wow, that's a black cherry tree. My son came in with a leaf that blew from a windstorm, and he said, this is a black willow. And I was like, yes, it is. It's amazing to see them be able to identify that. And that gives them a confidence. I never grew up like that. I am starting to learn what the birds are with my kids, because it's not something that I ever had the opportunity to do because I went to public school and missed out on a lot of that. But you think to yourself, what is the value of knowing what all of these things are? Oh, life is rich and life is deep and life is beautiful, and there's so many benefits to all of these things that seem aimless. And I've researched each aspect of that, probably because I have a problem with research. I have the tendency to get fixated pretty easily, but I can make a whole video about the benefits of nature study and how it is important, and it builds the confidence of the child. They're comfortable in the wilderness, and who knows how life will go. Maybe your kid needs to learn how to be a homesteader, because everybody in the cities that don't know how to, kill a chicken, they're going to starve, right? In the drastic apocalypse scenario. But I'd like my children to be familiar with outside, know what's poisonous around them, something that they can't eat, and it just makes them feel confident, especially the boys. They love it because they're adventurers, conquerors, explorers. And when you read about all of these people that are traveling and conquering and exploring, the kids they think it's so cool to be outside on these adventures. And so that's what we do for our science, is a nature study. And if you do not live somewhere where there's, let me show you these. All of these, the Burgess Animal Book for Children, the Burgess Bird Book for Children. I think these, I don't know that they're on Audible. There is a site, is it LOX? I can't remember, but you can download these on audio, and they use different voices for the characters and sound effects if your child needs to pay attention to that more. But I find oftentimes I have to stop reading so often because someone else interrupts me that I can't just set something on audio for my oldest to listen to because he's interrupted. And then I'd have to find out how to stop it, pause it, stop it. Where did you leave off? I don't know. So I find it beneficial for me to read directly to him myself. And then I use different character voices, and I make it very fun and interesting to read, because these books have pretty tough language, but it's still, my child is able to carry, to understand what's going on. This one starts off, which one is it? This one I think starts off kind of slow, but it gets better and better, really does. And then we got the seashore one because he's so interested in underwater. But these are science books. This is a series. And we do that for our science in addition to nature walks and reading our fun, picture book type things. We do that for science. And then Arabella Buckley has a lot of these. By Pond and River is one of them. And this one is pretty cool. My kids like it, but it depends, I guess, on your kid's taste. But we learned about dragonflies, and she basically writes a story. When you go home from school, if you pass a pond, you are almost sure to be able to find one or more of the 3 water bugs of this lesson. And I want you to look at them. So this is if you've got the benefit of having, wilderness in your backyard, which we don't. So oftentimes, because I don't live next to a pond, I will pull up videos about the pond and then read this so that my child can. That's so nice to have the internet. It really is. It's so helpful. A lot of people think that you ought to not let your kid watch TV and watch the internet and be around technology, and they're kind of old school in this aspect, especially if you get into the type of people that homeschool with living books. It's a more Charlotte Mason sort of approach. So they're very strict about the twaddle and the kinds of tools that you use, but realistically, the Charlotte Mason was written 100 years ago in the late 1800s, and she knew her stuff. And I follow mostly a Charlotte Mason approach, but with other research I've learned and the studies I've read and the additional science we've come to find out about how kids are and whatever else, I kind of mix my own curriculum. But we do this in addition to science. Now, I want to say something before. One thing that's beneficial is to pre-read. I can't always pre-read because I've got so many kids and I've got a lot to do, but I do try to pre-read. It's easy for me right now to pre-read because the books are very easy. So what I will do, say we were pre-reading about, say we were about to read this the night before, instead of scrolling Instagram or something, right? That's tough to do. I'm not trying to be snarky. Sometimes I just want to scroll my phone, but I'm getting better and better about not keeping my phone with me. But I'll read a chapter, and then I'll notice that in this book they will have a particular animal or a particular bird, or it will talk about the foamy creek, the foam on top of a creek. My kids have never seen that in person because we live in a desert. So I will, before I start reading the book to him, I will sit him down and I'll be like, all right, I'll give him a captain idea. Today we're going to learn about what happens with the fox and the sea cucumber. They're on that adventure over the mountain creek, and they're about to discover something amazing. Okay, so that's a captain idea. So now my son, as he's listening, knows that he's listening to a story about fox, because they personify the animals and they give them stories. So there's a fox and other kinds of animals, and before we'll start, I might even show him on my phone My phone is recording right now. I took it out of the case. I might even show him on the phone. I will go to YouTube and I will search foamy mountain creek, and then I will show him what a creek looks like with its foamy. Or the echo in the mountains, I will show him, because we don't have mountains, like I said, we're in a desert, right? I feel like I live in the worst climate. It's not a bad climate. We just don't have very many interesting things. Okay, so then I will search an echo in the Grand Canyon, and then I will play it, and then there's something on the internet for everything, right? Anything I search, a donkey braying, and I will show him what that sounds like, and I will do all of that before the read so that he can imagine it in his mind, because he's never seen them in real life. So I will do a pre-read, know what's coming, give him a captain idea about, it's just basically a one-liner about what we're going to read about. And then I will show him, if I want to, some visuals, things that I know that he's never seen, to help him imagine in his mind. Then I will try to go on and read this book without interruptions, but it's very difficult to do. It is not wise, however, because it ruins the flow to read something and then you come upon the word echo, and then you're like, let me show you what an echo is, and then you go to the phone and then you read echo. Then you keep reading and you're like, oh, you don't know what a sea cucumber is? Let me show you what a sea cucumber is. Then you look what a sea cucumber. That's why it's nice to pre-read, because it gives you the opportunity to look at all those things that your kid might not know, so that you can cover that prior to the reading, so that reading is not choppy and interrupted. Because the way that living books are written, it's a beautiful story, and if you interrupt it, it's just not as it's choppy. It's not nice to listen to. It's distracting, and it's hard to get back in the groove of it again if you've interrupted yourself 1,000 times by trying to show them things. So pre-reading, giving a captain idea, and then having them narrate, which I'll make a whole other video about, is what we do for science. Science, basically at this age 6, is about nature, essentially. All about nature. We have science kits that we do that my mom bought. He looks like with a microscope and the, just fun things that he thinks are toys. But he loves that kind of stuff. All right. So that's what our science looks like. And then geography, this is a classic living book, Elementary Geography by Charlotte Mason. So in here, we will use a lot of kinetic sand. Like when we were learning about what a peninsula was, I would form it with this kinetic sand, and he would play geography. That's essentially what we do for geography, is we play it out. And this ties in a lot to the science books we read for outdoors, because we will learn about different bodies of water and whatnot, and then we pull out by pond and river, and here's bodies of water, and it all ties in. And that's the point, is however you approach your curriculum and however you're trying to teach your child, it's cool to have a lot of supporting, even from history. We read about, and this has, there's a story about a tribe of Native Americans that lived next to a pond. There's history, pond, science, pond, geography, pond. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's how we do our subjects, in addition to reading, writing, arithmetic. Now, with reading, we also do Christina Rossetti, Sing Song Nursery Rhyme. And the kids love these books. We sometimes narrate these. They often draw a picture about what they think they heard or imagined in their mind. And I will do a whole video about why things like poetry and nature walks are so beneficial. And I will do all of that, right? When you go into like the arts, right, we do a hymn and a folk song. And the folk song, I tried to find, we did the Crawdad Hole because of the body of water we were learning about. And there's a folk song called Crawdad Hole. And so our folk song for the last term was, I picked up a couple about early American folk songs about marshlands and whatnot. What we do for music, but we also do solfa games. If you don't know what that is, you can give it a I'll put some YouTube video links, and we play really fun solfa games. Kids love them. And we go to music class outside the house. We pay for music class, but it's more of like it's called Music Together, and there might be one in your area because it's not a franchise. I don't even know how to describe that, but Music Together has a lot of the awesome folk songs, and it's just a fun atmosphere for the kids. So we do that for music, and as they get older, they'll probably pick an instrument. God willing, we have the ability to pay for lessons. We would like to do that and send them out in town to get lessons there. Then for things like brush drawing, I have, look at these, how fun is that? It starts with basic strokes, but one thing I want to show you that we use, that's awesome, are these from Amazon. They are, you can practice writing. This is a water pen, so it's basically watercolor, but the water is inside, and they can practice painting. And because my kids are, I've got such young ones, to not make a huge mess, so this is what we practice a lot of our strokes on. Isn't that fun? And we do brush drawing. When it's just the older one and myself, which isn't very often because I'm alone and my kids are so small, I let him do paint and things like that. But we're working on brush drawing, and it helps him with his dexterity. So that's one thing we do for art. And we do artist study also. And I have some prints from Riverband Press. And beautiful printouts. And we do artist study. And I'm going to do a whole video about artist study and the benefits of artist study also. And the 3 artists we did this year were Memling, Millais, and Cole. If your child is not in kindergarten and you have not really done arts and crafts, chances are they don't even know how to use scissors very well. And there's these books that you can buy on Amazon that you're supposed to cut. They draw like fun lines and the kid cuts. It's a book you buy, and then you can rip out the page and then they can practice scissor work and stuff. But it helps them with math and motor skills. There are videos on YouTube that I think the lady is doing this book. So you don't even have to buy this book. They're free. Look for Paper Sloyd on YouTube. And matter of fact, there's a girl here. She commented on my video, and I've watched her videos about Paper Sloyd. She's got a whole bunch of them. So funny. I'll mention her video. She has no idea that I know who she is. Anyway, so I bought some paper from Amazon. These are 6x6 because a lot of this is 6x6, but you could use regular paper, which would be good because then your kid uses a ruler to measure 6x6 and some nice sharp cut. Very sharp scissors. This is specifically for Paper Sloyd. You can use regular scissors that have like the rounded tip. It gets a little tricky, and I really do like these pointy tip ones. Kind of dangerous though. And we do Paper Sloyd. So I will show you what my kid made with Paper Sloyd. This is the very first thing my son made. It's a wall envelope. He's had to repair it a couple times because it's hanging above his bed, and when he makes his bed, the blanket has like ripped it down and stuff, but he puts his secret things in this wall pocket he made for his wall. He has memories. My son loves to hang decorations on his wall that are sentimental, so these have to do with memories. Anyway, this is a Paper Sloyd project he did. It's hanging on his wall, but we do those kinds of things for our afternoon occupations. A handicraft is basically arts and crafts that will benefit you in the future, like things that tie into needing to know how to repair things, fix things, mend things, sew things. It's there's a purpose behind the arts and craft. It's not just like I'm making something with no point. It's a very purposeful, deliberate, like we're gonna learn to sew, we're gonna learn to weave, we're gonna learn, it's fun stuff like that. My son, weaved. I can show you all the stuff he's done for his handicraft work. And this is the little, you guys remember doing that in school where you weave paper into paper. That's a really fun one for kids to do. All right, the baby woke up and I don't have much time. I could talk forever about all of the different kinds of books and the subjects and why I use them, and I will in another video, but I wanted to show you mostly what a homeschool day looks like. So the point is, morning time I do the heaviest stuff that's going to be the most difficult to do because for some reason in the morning I have them. And that is Bible, reading, writing, arithmetic. And if you don't, and I never mentioned the writing, I got not a free download. I paid $10 for a lifetime download so I can download it again for each child. This is Penny Gardner, author of Charlotte Mason Study Guide, A Simplified Approach to a Living Education. Italics, beautiful handwriting for children. And that is what we use for our handwriting. Well, it turns into doodling also. But we will sit down, and I don't expect my child to sit there and write a letter W 15 different times. I don't think that that's fair or realistic to a 6-year-old. So if he gives me 3 good W's in a row, this is a part of a Charlotte Mason theory, is busy work, pointless work, time-consuming work, it's just not necessary. If your child just whips out, it's not going to be good-looking W's if your kid has to do it 40 times. If you tell them, hey, go nice and slow and try your best and give me the best W you can, and then they give you a really good-looking W, the lesson could be done for the day. And that's some approach. That's an approach I take oftentimes when he's just too squirrely to sit down. I only require him to write one good-looking W. Sometimes I'll get 3 out of him. Sometimes he's really enjoying it and he'll do a whole line if he wants to, but I don't push him to write almost ever. But his handwriting is very good for someone who's age 6 that has hardly ever written, because we practice slow and perfect. And then that's it. You don't have to do any more, because then it's not like a begrudgingly sort of, I'm gonna do the letter P a bunch of times and it's all sloppy and all over the place. And I have some different ways that I teach handwriting, and maybe it's helped my kid to be able to write properly, and maybe some of you don't even have these concepts, because I study calligraphy and hand lettering, and I've got some things in my mind that help me to teach him. So his handwriting, the letters are always usually the same size and they keep in the same square. It's just like hand lettering and that kind of stuff, and it's helped him to write pretty well. So that's what we do for our handwriting, reading, writing, and arithmetic. As he gets older, writing is going to be more important than it is right now. It isn't so much. We will just be sitting there eating dinner, and then I will have a pen because I'm writing my planner, and then I will ask him, you want to write a number 8? And he'll write a number 8. Sometimes that's how we do handwriting. But as he starts writing written narrations and what they call copywork, then it will be more of a big deal. But at age 6, I'm really not pressed. So with all of these, so that's what we do in the morning time: reading, writing, arithmetic, not so much writing, and almost always Bible. Then in the afternoon, then we start our day. We, depending on what time it is, because my kids have chocolate milk when they first wake up, so we don't usually have breakfast until 9. And by that time, we've gone upstairs, done our morning routine, which includes making beds and getting dressed, getting ready for the day, that kind of thing. And I will do a more extensive video about what a morning routine looks like if you're interested. And that would show us doing our morning basket and our morning routine. If you want to see it, just let me know. If enough people comment that they'd like to see that, I will do it. Otherwise, I mean, it's just us doing homeschool again, and then our routines and habit training. We've got some habits, I don't know if you can see it written on the board there, to work on. And then we go downstairs and have breakfast, and then I kind of lose them. Sometimes, because they're so small and because there's so many of them, they have a really good time playing. And if they're playing outside very well or inside using their imagination, I don't bother them. I'm a terrible person. I'm just a terrible homeschooling mother. But one thing that I did want to speak about that I want to end this video on is something that I learned about later on. I wish I'd known. And I will show you here. I've written it down on a piece of paper. My handwriting is horrible, but I was writing it very quickly. We do the morning basket, the morning non-negotiable. We do the morning homeschool, right? Then we do our morning routine. Then we have lunch, and usually over lunch is when I'm reading like poetry or something. When I've got him sitting still somewhere, if he's taking a bath and just playing in the bathtub, I will start reading to him. If he's I read all the time. As a homeschool mom, I think the best thing you can do is read to your child. Just read to them any chance they get. If he's sitting there playing with blocks and he's just building something, sometimes I will ask him, in those instances, because sometimes he's creating an imaginative sort of situation in his mind where he's building robots or something, and I don't want to interrupt him. But if he's just, I'm like, can I join you and read your story? He's like, sure, then I will read to him then. I will read to them when they are eating food, breakfast or lunch or something. But I'm just reading constantly all the time. When I first started the formal homeschool years, when he turned 6, I had written out a schedule of what our days would look like. And then in the afternoons on a certain day, I would have certain subjects, but I would not get to them. And I started to lose control over how often we were doing geography or how often we were doing a different, something else. So that's when I started to implement a loop schedule. So let me pull this off the thing and show you my sloppy handwriting and explain to you what I do to make sure we get all the subjects, because I was missing them. I would get the 3 R's in the Bible, but then everything else was just like slipping out of my hands because of our afternoons. Our afternoons oftentimes have when we would go to music, we would go, a child who has weekly appointments for things, and it's just we would be out of the house in the afternoon is when I would schedule most of the things because baby's awake from nap, and we would go do whatever, and then I would just lose the day. So I found, let me show you. So when I first started school, I would write, Bible, math, reading, Bible, math, reading, Bible, math, reading across. That was what we would always do. And then we would play, and then we would do lunch. This is just an example. This is not what I really do. Then I would have the subjects like science, history, geography, a nature walk, and language like our Spanish. My husband speaks Spanish, so I'm not really too pressed to teach them Spanish because my husband speaks Spanish. He's Puerto Rican and Dominican. But anyway, if on every Tuesday when one of my kids has multiple appointments, I would always miss it. I would always miss Tuesday. Things would just go wrong. And then by 5 weeks, I realized I hadn't done history in 5 weeks. Or, Wednesday is our music day. So sometimes we would, for 5 weeks long, I still haven't got to geography. The next day, I would do a nature walk, and the next day I would do this, right? Then the next we would come, and then Tuesday was all messed up, and Wednesday was all messed up. So I'd never do history and geography, because Wednesday and Tuesday were always messed up. So instead of doing a schedule like this, I do a loop schedule, where I have the same things written, Bible, math, read, play, lunch, Bible, math, read, play, lunch. But then the ones that I was losing, I created a loop. So I didn't have those designated to any day. We would just do them in a loop over and over again. If it happened to be Monday, we got to science, great. Tuesday, we would do history. Wednesday, we would do solfa. Thursday, we would do nature walk. And then I missed Friday. Well, then I would just go, on Monday I would do language. On Tuesday I would do geography. And I would just go through this list over and over and over again. So if I missed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I wasn't missing history, geography, and nature walk. I would just start with the next one I did on my list. Does that make sense? So for a few days we did school, great, science, history. On Wednesday Wednesday would go by, Thursday would go by, Friday then I would get solfa. Monday would go by, Tuesday would go by, then Wednesday we finally got to do something, then we'd do our nature walk. Then I'd miss Thursday, then I'd get Friday, and that would be language. Does that make any sense, a loop schedule? This is what we do now, instead of this, because I was just missing subjects consecutively, over and over again, for whatever reason. But now I don't miss any subjects because I go through this loop. All right, this video started out with a good intention, and then it kind of went left, and now I'm trying to cover 1,000 things in one video, and I need to not do that. I plan on making a video also about the younger years, getting kids started in handwriting. Basically, we would go outside and write in the dirt. I know you can make rice trays, and we do it with kinetic sand, and we have, but I mean, it's just messy, especially if you've got so many that are little. I hope my phone is not jiggling as bad as it seems that it is, because I'm holding it with my hand right now. But if you just go outside with their finger and then draw a line straight down, and then they draw a line straight down, and you say, oh my gosh, you drew the letter I! And it's just so exciting. There's a certain order you can teach the letters. The stick letters are the easiest, I, L, T, things like that. And that could be any age, because it's play-based, whenever they start showing interest in that kind of thing. But I'm going to do lots of videos. If you have questions, especially if there's a common question, so if you do have questions or want to see more of something, comment that, because the most common request is probably going to be my next video. So I hope this was helpful. Let's see how the rest of the day pans out for me here.
Making that sound in a canyon is so echoey. So it's so cute. When you yell into that canyon, you can probably hear yourself at the back 5 times. You should. Well, let's see. Instantly, the canyon took up the side. South wall to north and back again. Then it bounced in the gray until there was nothing left. The burro waited. Listen. The tears flowed. The tiny white sounded. Hello! Almost as big and brassy as his own. It set the little burro in action. He got his foot. He sounded like, no. Burro started heading down. Down the trail he plunged, zigzagging from ledge to ledge, ears flopping, tail swinging, hoofs toe dancing the narrow path. The narrow path, you saw the edge of that cliff, right? narrow. Once on his way, the time of momentum took hold of him, and he barely knew.
So as you can see, baby is trying to draw on my book with a pencil, and I'm just reading. And then after the story, my son asked about the Grand Canyon because I flew over the Grand Canyon when I was in the military. So I ended up showing him that video on the phone, and then he left and went to play, and I got some time with my daughter to read to her.
Yeah. 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 Yay!
It is 3:30 in the afternoon and I just don't have time to record any more of this video, and I really wanted to get it out. I'm going to pull my oldest aside and do the 100 Easy Lessons reading right now, and then I'm going to start dinner and we're going to start cleanup. We do a cleanup at 4 before my husband gets home, so it's nice and tidy. And that's it for the day. I tried to read to him earlier, but they were playing a game about asteroids or something, and I just was like, I'm just gonna let them play. So basically they've been playing while I've been editing this. That's how my day has gone, and that's why I don't make too many videos, because I do truly like to, you know, spend time with them, play with them, read to them. And editing and filming a video takes a lot of time, especially since this one is so long. But I am just going to do a quick reading lesson with him. Then we're gonna clean up, and then I'm gonna make dinner, and we're gonna start our night routine, okay? So thank you for watching such a long video. I hope it was okay, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!